So, good morning. Thank all of you for coming out to hear my seminar. That's great. So, we are the part of the family of God on the spiritual level. On the physical level, God has made provision for us to have our important needs fulfilled in a physical family. The human family, when functioning correctly, is the place we first feel cherished and protected. We thrive in a loving environment. We are nurtured, prepared, and trained to live and survive in the outside world. As we move through different stages of our lives, ideally, we will be part of other groups where we find support, trust, feel loved, and accepted. My topic today is the circle of safety. I will be describing in detail what that means for us as individuals, how it's maintained, and why it's important to our well-being. We're familiar with this concept, which has been around a very long time. Wagon trains in the past would form in a circle to protect those inside. Groups of animals surround their young to protect them as well. We are individuals as well as members of groups, and this can create conflict. We have to find the balance between properly taking care of ourselves and looking out for and helping those in the group. Here's an example from the fables of Aesop from the 6th century BC. A lion used to prowl about in a field in which 4 oxen used to dwell. Many a time he tried to attack them, but whenever he came near, they turned their tails toward one another, so that whichever way he approached, he met the horns of one of them. At last, however, they fell a-quarreling among themselves, and each went off to pasture alone in a separate corner of the field. Then the lion attacked them one by one until he soon made an end of all of them. The book that showed up on my path to inspire this seminar topic is Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. While God is my first and most important inspiration, he places books, people, quotes, and other forms of information in front of me to also inspire me. I have drawn heavily from the stories and information in Sinek's book, so I want to give him credit for his work. At the end of his book, he says, if this book inspired you, please pass it on to someone you want to inspire. The book is not written from a biblical perspective. However, I see biblical connections throughout his writing. I will include verses from the Bible which encourage us to stay connected with those of like faith and belief. The circle of safety is a model we benefit from being a part of. There are many Bible verses that came to mind that I did not include. I hope you hear them between the lines as I go through my notes. Whatever position of authority we find ourselves in, we all benefit from being in a circle of safety. Those with formal rank may have authority to work at greater scale, but each of us has a responsibility to keep the circle of safety strong. So I will include stories about individuals, groups, and businesses. Leadership will come up often, as we all are leaders, or maybe will be leaders in one capacity or another. I will also talk about how our brains are created to encourage and reinforce our good behavior, which benefits us and those in the circle of safety. The book I bought, Leaders Eat Last, is signed by the author to the previous owner of the book. Sinek wrote, "Inspire someone every single day." Inspire someone every single day. The foreword in the book is by Lieutenant General George J. Flynn of the U.S. Marines. He sets the tone of the book with an example of Leaders Eat Last. Quoting, "When you are with Marines gathering to eat, you will notice that the most junior are served first and the most senior are served last. At the heart of this very simple action is the Marine Corps' approach to leadership. Marine leaders are expected to eat last because the true price of leadership is a willingness to place the needs of others above your own. Great leaders truly care about those they are privileged to lead and understand that the true cost of the leadership privilege comes at the expense of self-interest. End of quote by George J. Flynn. John Quincy Adams understood what it was to be a leader when he stated, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader." So let's look at what some of the Bible verses say about being a leader. Mark 10, verses 42 through 45, and as usual, I'll just read it from my notes. Mark 10, 42 through 45. And Yeshua called them, his disciples, to him and said to them, "You know that those who are supposed to rule over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great men exercise authority over them. But it shall not be so among you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant. And whoever would be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man also came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." When Yeshua called the disciples, he was forming a circle of safety for that period of time. It was a group to help him in his ministry, and it would create a bond between his disciples. They would be eating together, traveling together, and able to see the best and the worst in each other. They would grow close on a level that comes from hardship, survival, and a sense of feeling safe from those on the outside. They were loyal to Yeshua and his ministry, with the exception of Judas. Yeshua knew the outcome when he chose Judas, but that is not what I want to discuss today. However, Judas was included in the inner circle until near the end. Let's look at some verses that encourage us to find and stay connected in a circle of safety. Romans 12:10. Romans 12:10. Love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing love. Hebrews 10:23 through 25. Hebrews 10:23 through 25. Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together as the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 through 15. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 through 15. Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing. But we beseech you, brethren, to respect those who labor among you and are over you in the Lord, and admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love because of their work. Be at peace among yourselves. And we exhort you, brethren, admonish the idlers, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with them all. See that none of you repay evil for evil, but always seek to do good to one another and to all. Galatians 6:10. Galatians 6:10. So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all men, and especially to those who are of the household of faith. These verses, in almost all cases, requires that we be in the presence of the other person. Without a circle of safety, people are forced to spend too much time and energy protecting themselves from each other. Every member of the group plays a role in maintaining the circle of safety, and it is the leader's role to ensure that they do. This is a primary role of leadership, to look out for those inside the circle. Only when the circle of safety surrounds everyone, is in the group, and not just a few people, are the benefits fully realized. When we are within the circle, we feel valued and cared for. We feel a sense of belonging. We cannot instruct people to trust us. We can't demand that people cooperate. These are the results of feeling safe and trusted among the people in our circle of safety. As human beings, we need social contact. It's a significant way that we build and maintain trust and the way we get to know each other. The time we spend with each other at church, for instance, helps form strong bonds. It's the same reason why eating together and doing things as a family really matters. The more familiar we are with each other, the stronger our connection. Together, we can accomplish much bigger things than if we were to face the world alone. God has also created us in such a way that our brains can reinforce our choices. I'm going to describe 5 chemicals released by our bodies under certain circumstances and what they do. Endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and cortisol. So endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and cortisol. I'll be using these names, but remembering the names is not my focus. My point is to share with you what they do for us and how they can help keep us connected in a circle of safety. The first 4 are feel-good chemicals, which are essential for us. Our ability to work hard and muscle through hard labor is thanks to endorphins. Our ability to set goals, focus, and get things done comes from the incentivizing powers of dopamine. It feels good to make progress, so we do. When we cooperate or look out for others, serotonin and oxytocin reward us with feelings of security, fulfillment, belonging, trust, and camaraderie. When we find ourselves inside a circle of safety, stress declines, fulfillment rises, and our want to serve others increases, and our willingness to trust others to watch our backs skyrockets. When these social incentives are inhibited, however, we become more selfish and more aggressive. Leadership falters. Cooperation declines. Stress increases, as do paranoia and mistrust. We want and need the approval of those in our tribe. It really matters. We all want to feel valuable for the effort we put forth for the good of others in the group or for the group itself. If we could get that feeling alone, then we wouldn't have award ceremonies, company recognition programs, or graduation ceremonies. It is because of serotonin that a college graduate feels a sense of pride and feels their confidence and status rise as they walk across the stage to receive their diploma. Technically, all a student needs to graduate is to pay their bills, fulfill their requirements, and collect enough credits. But graduation probably wouldn't feel the same if we received only an email with a generic letter of congratulations and a downloadable attachment of our diploma. So at the moment that college graduate feels the serotonin course through their veins as they receive their diploma, their parents sitting in the audience also get bursts of serotonin and feel equally as proud. And that's the point. Serotonin helps to reinforce the bond between parent and child, teacher and student, coach and player, boss and employee, leader and follower. That's why when someone receives an award, the first people they thank are those who offered them support and the protection they needed to accomplish what they accomplished. And when others offer their protection and support because of serotonin, we feel a sense of accountability to them. These chemicals control our feelings. That's why we can actually feel the weight of responsibility when others commit time and energy to support us. We want them to feel that their sacrifices made for us were worth it. We don't want to let them down. We want to make them proud. And if we are the ones giving the support, we feel an equal sense of responsibility. We want to do right by them so that they can accomplish all that they set out to do. This helps explain why it feels different to cross a finish line in a race alone, without cheers, without the crowd cheers as we break the tape. The accomplishment, the time, even the effort is the same. The only difference is that in one case, there are others there to witness and cheer us on. The more we give to see others succeed, the greater our value to the group and the more respect they offer us. Whether we are a boss, a coach, or a parent, serotonin is working to encourage us to serve those for whom we are directly responsible. Being willing to sacrifice time and energy so that others may give is a prerequisite for leadership. So next is oxytocin. Oxytocin is most people's favorite chemical. It's the feeling of friendship, love, and deep trust. It is the feeling we get when we're in the company of our closest friends or trusted colleagues. It is the feeling we get when we do something nice for someone or someone does something nice for us. It is responsible for all of those warm, fuzzy feelings. Oxytocin is not there just to make us feel good. It is important to our survival. Without oxytocin, we wouldn't want to perform acts of generosity. There would be no empathy. We wouldn't be able to develop strong bonds of trust and friendship. And without that, we wouldn't have anyone we could rely on to watch our backs. Oxytocin helps direct how vulnerable we can allow ourselves to be. It is a social compass that determines when it's safe to open up and trust, and when we should hold back. Unlike dopamine, which is about instant gratification, oxytocin is long-lasting. The more time we spend with someone, the more we are willing to make ourselves vulnerable around them. As we learn to trust them and earn their trust in return, the more oxytocin flows. In time, we will realize that we have developed a deep relationship and bond with this person. The loner on the edge of the group is far more susceptible to predators than one who is safely surrounded and valued by others. To be around others like us makes us feel like we belong and gives us a sense of safety. We feel accepted as part of the group and no longer suffer the anxiety of feeling that we are on the edges. We crave a sense of belonging, the feeling of being inside a circle of safety. Sinek tells the story of walking down the street with a friend, and I'm going to read it as if he were talking. So they were walking down the sidewalk when the backpack of a man walking in front of them opened up, spilling papers on the sidewalk. Without a thought, we bent down and helped him gather up his papers, and I pointed out that his bag was open. That tiny favor, that little expense of time and energy, with no expectation for anything in return, gave me a small shot of oxytocin. We stood up and continued walking. When my friend and I reached the end of the block and stood there waiting for the signal light to change so we could cross the street, another man standing in front of us turned around and said, "I saw what you did back there. That was really cool." Not only does the person performing even the tiniest act of courtesy and the person on the receiving end of an act also get a shot, but someone who witnesses the act of generosity also gets some chemical feel-good. Simply seeing or hearing about acts of human generosity actually inspires us to want to do the same. This is one of the reasons we find movies and news stories of incredible selfless acts, so inspiring. The more good things we do, the more good we want to do. This is the science behind paying it forward. Oxytocin is also released with physical contact. That warm feeling we get when we hug someone we like for a few seconds longer. It's also the reason it feels nice to hold hands with someone. And the reason young children seem to always want to touch and hug their mothers. There's lots of evidence that children who are deprived of human contact, deprived of sufficient doses of oxytocin, have trouble building trusting relationships later in life. It is also part of the reinforcing bond between athletes, for example, when they high-five, fist bump, and smack each other. It reinforces the bond they share and the commitment they have to work together for their common good. Oxytocin actually helps us live longer. According to a study published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Science in 2011, people who claim to be happy live 35% longer than less happy people. The study of 3,800 men and women aged 52 to 79 found that those who rated their happiness the highest were far less likely to die in the following 5 years than those who were the least happy, even after accounting for demographic factors such as wealth, occupation, health-related behaviors such as smoking and obesity. Oxytocin boosts our immune system, which makes us It boosts our immune system. It makes us better problem solvers and makes us more resilient to the addictive qualities of dopamine. Dopamine is largely responsible for instant gratification, where oxytocin gives us long-lasting feelings of calm and safety. We don't need to check in to see how many likes or followers we have on Facebook to feel good. Just knowing our friends and family are there, just looking at a picture of the people whom we love and who love us makes us feel good and not feel alone. And when that happens, we want more than anything else to do what we can to help them feel the same way. So I feel like I have friends in just different places through the country, but I feel like some of those are anchors. We don't see each other often, but I have a close bond with them, and they are my anchors, so I feel it makes me feel more grounded and connected. Our brains are wired to release oxytocin when in the presence of our tribe, and cortisol, the chemical that produces the feeling of anxiety when we feel vulnerable and alone. Let's take a look at cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone that is supposed to fire off inside of us when we sense a threat, and then leave when the threat is past. Stress on our bodies is serious, as we all probably know. It can cause lasting damage if we have to live in a perpetual sense of fear or anxiety. Whether the danger is real or imagined, the stress we feel is real. Our bodies simply react to the chemicals flowing through our bloodstreams to prepare us to act. When we feel we have to watch our backs from some sort of attack, cortisol begins to drip into our system. Cortisol also inhibits the release of oxytocin. Even though we can get used to living with stress and low, regular levels of cortisol in our bodies, that doesn't mean we should. Cortisol steals our energy and takes off and turns off non-essential functions such as digestion and growth. The immune system also is one of the functions that the body deems non-essential. If we work or live in environments where trust is low, relationships are weak, and stress and anxiety are normal, we become much more vulnerable to illness. If we feel safe at home, at work, and our relationships are strong, then oxytocin diminishes the effects of stress and cortisol. We feel protected and that we belong. With trust, we look out for each other and do things and sacrifice for each other. This adds to our sense of security inside the circle of safety. Our well-being is not threatened. Leaders, whether in a business, a group, or the head of a household, can choose to set any kind of culture they want, to make the people or their family feel safe, or on edge, worried about the future. Leadership is the choice to serve others with or without any formal rank. There are people with authority who are not leaders, and there are leaders in low-level positions. Leaders are the ones who are willing to give up something of their own for us, their time, their energy, their money, maybe even the food off their plates. When it matters, leaders eat last. We also need to remember that leaders want to feel safe too. Every single one of us wants to feel we are valued by others in the group. If we have a bad day, what we want to hear from those over us is, "Are you okay? Can I help?" If our boss comes down on us and we don't know why, it's equally our responsibility to express concern for their well-being. We can only trust others when we know they are actively and consciously concerned about us. Trust must be reciprocal. One-way trust is not beneficial to the individual or the group. So I want to touch briefly on abundance and how that affects us. We live in a day and age of abundance of food, resources, choices, and nearly everything we need and want. We take what we have for granted. Abundance destroys value. It's easy to forget to be grateful. It is not when things come easily that we appreciate them, but when we have to work hard for them or when they are hard to get, that those things have greater value to us. When we have less, we tend to be more open to sharing what we have. Ironically, the more we have, the bigger our fences, the more sophisticated our security to keep people away, and the less we want to share. Our desire for more, combined with our reduced physical interaction with others, starts to create a disconnection or blindness to reality. We don't do well with abundance. It can short-circuit our systems and actually do damage to us, to our relationships, and to our organizations. Abundance can be destructive, not because it is bad per se. Abundance can be destructive because it alters the value of things. We can slip over to no longer seeing each other as people. We become customers, shareholders, employees, online profiles, screen names, email addresses, and expenses to be tracked. Now more than ever, we are trying to work and live, be productive and happy in a world in which we are strangers to those around us. Let's look at what can happen when we don't really see people. We only see numbers to represent them from a computer screen or spreadsheet. Here's an example. In the time before the turn of the century, most of the largest ships were ferries. They transported huge numbers of people within the close proximity of the shore. Ship regulations were based on ferries. In 1912, when the Titanic set sail, they had the number of lifeboats required by law, which was 16, plus 4 more inflatable rafts. It was 4 times larger than the largest legal classification of ships of that day. As we know, the Titanic sailed far from shore. They had only a quarter of the lifeboats they actually needed, so only a few more than a quarter of the passengers and crew survived. The shipping industry knew the regulations were outdated and would soon be changed. There was additional space added to the deck of the Titanic with the expectation that it would carry lifeboats for all. Lifeboats were expensive. They require maintenance and could affect the ship's stability. So the executives at the Ocean Steam Navigation Company decided not to add the lifeboats until they had to. The company was in full compliance with the applicable rules. The shipping industry lobbied against the change in regulations in the early 20th century, arguing that having so many boats visible on the deck would hurt business because people would think their vessels were unsafe. These games that many companies play make it hard to trust them. Being a company of high moral standing is the same as being a person of high moral character, a standard not easily determined by the law, but easily felt by anyone. When a company manages from the top and never engages with those on the lower level, on the lower level of the company, it's hard to make the right moral decisions, and it makes it even harder to take responsibility when there is a failure. People tend to lose empathy when big numbers start representing human beings. For an example, if your sister, the major breadwinner in her family, lost her job, it would have a significant impact on your niece and nephew. It would have an impact on her, and it would be a deep emotional burden to her and her family, and probably you as well. But a decision made using a spreadsheet to lay off 4,000 people at some large corporation loses tangibility and becomes something that just needs to be done to meet certain goals. The numbers no longer represent people who support their families and have bills to pay. The moment the names on a chart or a statistic becomes a real living person, which have human consequences, we become more connected and we can have more empathy. Relationships become real when we meet face to face. Nothing can replace face-to-face meetings. A live concert is better than a DVD. We can't get the same experience from a Zoom conference. So let's look at some research about the actual number of people we can have close relationships with. Several people and groups have come to the conclusion that people cannot maintain more than about 150 close relationships. Robin Dunbar, a British anthropologist and professor at Oxford University, noticed in his research, when groups get higher than about 150, the people are less likely to work hard and less likely to help each other out. Journalist Rick Lax wrote on Wired.com about contacting his 2,000 Facebook friends. He was surprised how few of his, quote, friends he actually knew, or who actually knew him. When we really know someone, we are much more likely to help each other. In a Marine platoon of about 40 people, for example, they will often refer to the officer as our lieutenant, whereas the more distant and less seen senior officer is simply the colonel. When this sense of mutual ownership between leader and those being led starts to break down, when informality is replaced by formality, it is a sure sign the group may be getting too large to lead effectively. The larger the group of people, the less likely we are to develop any kind of trusting relationships with them. When we are able to physically see the positive impact of the decisions we make or the work we do, not only do we feel that our work is worth it, but it also inspires us to work harder and do more. Seeing the results of our efforts is much more powerful than being told how important it is. We inherently put a premium value on those who give their time and energy. Money is relative. $100 to a poor person is a lot. $100 to a millionaire is a little. But time is a constant. Rich or poor, we all have 24 hours in a day and 365 days a year. If someone is willing to give us something of which they have a fixed or finite amount, we perceive greater value. The energy we give also matters. A parent going to a child's sports event who only looks up occasionally from their mobile device has given their time, but not their energy. The child can look and see the parents' head down most of the time, regardless of the parents' intention. They have not given their attention. Basically, the time is wasted. If someone told us they gave $500 to charity, we might think they're nice and wonder why they're telling us. If someone else said they volunteered their time to paint a school in the inner city, we might think that's cool and think we should do more. Simply hearing the time and energy someone gave to others can inspire us to do more for others too. This is a quote by Wolfgang von Goethe. You can easily judge the character of a man and by how he treats those who can do nothing for him. You can easily judge the character of a man by how he treats those who can do nothing for him. Now I want to go to the story of the Post-it note. I don't know how many might have heard this, but I thought it was interesting. Spencer Silver, while working in 3M, is a scientist who is partially credited for the creation of the Post-it note. He was trying to create a strong adhesive, but he ended up creating a very weak adhesive. According to his job specs, he had failed. He shared his failure with others in the company just in case someone else could figure out a way to use it. A few years later, Art Fry, another scientist at 3M, was in a church choir practice, getting frustrated that he couldn't get the bookmark to stay in place. It kept falling out of the page, off the music, and onto the floor. He remembered Silver's weak adhesive, and realized he could use it to make the perfect bookmark. That's the birth of what would become one of the best recognized brands in history, with 4,000 varieties sold in over 100 countries. 3M knows that people do their best work when they work together, share their ideas, and comfortably borrow each other's work for their own projects. There's no notion of mine. Innovation from interaction. Innovation from interaction is one of 3M's favorite mottos. More than 80% of 3M's patents have more than one inventor. 3M's corporate culture encourages and rewards people for helping each other. Sharing everything that they learn. Inside a circle of safety, when people trust and share their successes and failures, innovation is a natural result. Another story Sinek shares is of a Marine sitting out in the middle of the woods in Virginia who fell asleep on duty. He wasn't in combat, and he didn't put any people's lives at risk that day. When he was asked about it, he denied it. He was asked a second time, and he denied it again. Only when he was shown irrefutable proof did he say, "I'd like to take responsibility for my actions." Had he admitted it the first time, he would have been reprimanded and it would have been over. However, he lied about it twice. The colonel said the problem was that taking responsibility for one's actions must happen at the time you perform your actions, not at the time you get caught. In the Marine Corps, trust and integrity are considered matters of life and death. Leadership is not about being right all the time. It's a responsibility that hinges almost entirely on character. Responsibility is doing what is right. Leadership is about integrity, honesty, and accountability, all components of trust. Integrity is the reason we trust one another. Trust evolves once we have enough evidence that a person is indeed honest. For integrity to work, it must be a practice and not simply a state of mind. Integrity is being honest when we agree, but more about being honest when we disagree. It's even more important when we make mistakes or missteps. Any attempt to spin a story that's self-serving and selfish can do damage to any group. Building trust requires simply telling the truth. The legacy we and other leaders leave is about committing to the well-being of those in our care and having a willingness to make sacrifices to see their interest advanced so that they may carry our banner long after we are gone. When a leader has the humility to distribute power across the organization, the strength of the company becomes less dependent on one person and is therefore better able to survive. Instead of trying to command and control everything, the leaders devote all their energy in training, building, and protecting their people, to managing the circle of safety so that the people can command and control any situation themselves. Sinek shares a rule which the Spartans were expected to adhere to. They were a warrior society in ancient Greece and were revered for their strength, courage, and endurance. The power of the Spartan army did not come from the sharpness of their spears. It came from the strength of their shields. Losing one's shield in battle was considered the single greatest crime a Spartan could commit. Spartans excuse without penalty the warrior who loses his helmet or breastplate in battle, writes Stephen Pressfield, but punish the loss of all citizenship rights the man who discards his shield. The reason was simple. A warrior carries helmet and breastplate for his own protection, but his shield is for the safety of the whole line. So I know I'm jumping through stories. I'm just trying to create some stories here for you. This one is about Costco. I'm a member of both Costco and Sam's Club. I have had a gut feeling of trust for Costco, more than I have for Sam's Club. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but reading this story may be partially the reason. James Senegal ran the company from 1983 until he retired in January 2012. He led the company by making the people who work there the priority. He knew that if the company treated the employees like family, the employees would reciprocate with trust and loyalty. Workers are praised for finding solutions and better ways of doing things. They look out for each other rather than competing against each other. In 2005, Senegal refused to pass on a greater percentage of healthcare costs to the employees, and analysts faulted him for being too benevolent. Unlike many other major retailers who rallied to defeat an increase in the minimum wage, Costco executives have been vocal in their support of it. In April 2009, when the company's sales dropped by 27%, they approved a wage increase for the employees instead of layoffs. Senegal said the employees needed more help, not less. Costco is also closed on the 7 major holidays, which gives more family time. The protection from the leaders of Costco ensure that the circle of safety they have spent so long building stays intact. So we all have struggles to deal with. How we learn to deal with our struggles and anxieties during our adolescence is likely to become the way we deal with them later in life or throughout our lives. It is the strong support networks we build during this fragile time, that teaches us that we need others to help us cope and survive. This is a time they really need supportive parents, teachers, friends, and community. It is a time they need to build a stronger foundation of faith in their relationship with God. Family dinners, teen sports, hobbies, and extracurricular activities are very important as well. During this time of adolescence, if the support system is not there, alcohol, drugs, or gang membership can become a substitute for relying on family and healthy friendships. During this period of time of self-doubt, stress, and loneliness. The release of those good chemicals I mentioned earlier into our systems is not perfect. They do not fire in equal quantities and in strict allotments. And we can short-circuit the system to release the chemicals for the wrong reasons. Endorphins and dopamine give us a short-term rewards to which we can, under the right conditions, become addicted. Serotonin and oxytocin take time to build up in our systems before we can enjoy their full benefits. Though we may enjoy the thrill of reaching a goal or winning a race, that feeling won't last. To get more of that feeling, we need to win another race and reach another more distant goal. Or we can reach for alcohol or drugs that gives that boost we need more quickly, which can lead to addiction. Once addicted to alcohol, for example, most people need help to overcome it. One place that offers help is Alcoholics Anonymous. Most everyone knows they offer a 12-step program to overcome the addiction. They offer a circle of safety. The 12th step is vitally important, and what it says, if you don't do the 12th step, you may not succeed, because that step is all about service. There's a reason AA meetings happen in church basements and recreational centers and not in online chat rooms. And there's a reason why when an alcoholic wants to reach out to their sponsor, the other alcoholic who is committed to helping them, they don't send an email. They pick up the phone and call. It's because the connections required to beat the addiction must be real. They cannot be virtual. If a person gets in the program and stays with the group can help keep them safe. Alcoholics don't succeed just for themselves. They also want to succeed for their sponsors, who gives their time and energy to help them succeed. This connects back to oxytocin, which can help reinforce a caring and mentoring relationship, which is what that one is about. Preliminary findings from a 2012 study by the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill shows that the presence of oxytocin actually fights withdrawal symptoms in alcoholics and heroin addicts. Oxytocin may even prevent physical dependence from happening in the first place. Oxytocin is so powerful that the bonds of trust and love we form helps us beat or ward off addiction. The more oxytocin there is, the stronger the bond of trust will be. The greater the risk people will take to do the right thing. The more they will look out for each other, and the group will ultimately perform better. It is the group of people with whom we find common interest and common causes that we go to for support. Whenever there is a real, true, honest human bond where neither party wants anything from the other, we seem to find the strength to endure and the strength to help. Whether it's a diamond deep in the ground, career success, or a relationship, it is the struggle it takes to make it work that helps give that thing value. The days everything goes smoothly and is planned are not the ones we remember with fondness. For most of us, we have warmer feelings for the projects we worked on where everything seemed to go wrong. We may have worked late into the night, ate cold food, and barely finished by the deadline. It's not the work we remember with fondness, but the camaraderie, how the group came together to get things done. When we share the hardships, we grow closer. An example came to mind as I was putting my notes together. Several of us helped Marilee move her belongings out of her ex-husband's house. He forbade her family to be there, so a group of us offered to help her. As I was on the road to the house, I saw Marilee's car pulled off the side of the road. Her car had died and it wouldn't start. So she called her daughter and left the car. So she rode with me the rest of the day. Upon arriving at the house, her ex was somewhat confrontational. He was on high alert and really didn't want her or any of us there. Ron Saladin stepped up as the peacemaker, and we were allowed inside, 3 at a time. Marilee was gathering items, and Cynthia and I were boxing them up for those outside to load in the vehicles. We stepped out as needed so a couple of the men could come in to lift heavier items. It was tense inside the house, so we tried to run interference between Marilee and her ex. Finally, we were finished. We all met at the storage unit to unload with her family there to help. We stood around under the awning and we had lunch together. The first part at the house was frustrating and uncomfortable. But what I remember most was the finish line, enjoying cold food with our volunteer moving crew. In Matthew 18, it talks about the shepherd leaving the 99 to find the one lost. There was a bond between the 99. The shepherd trusted that they would be okay for the short time that he was gone. The one would not survive unless he found it and brought it back to the fold. Feeling alone and left out puts us at risk too. The circle of safety is a concept, another way of saying what I see in the Bible for a unified group of believers to love and support each other. We are a body of believers. We benefit from sharing our blessings, our struggles, and looking out for each other. Our actions affect each other. Since we can only have close relationships with a smaller number of people, we need to pick those people carefully. Our lives require action. We are to be doers. Take note if someone in your family or a close friend would benefit from you looking after them a little bit more. Maybe a few more hugs or words of encouragement. In closing, to summarize my points, I've shared a lot of information and stories with you. Some stories about what brought people together for connection and belonging. The Titanic story, the choices that were not good and caused people to suffer or die. How our bodies are created to chemically support our good choices, which help us to be happier and more at peace. I hope hearing that there are other groups and businesses in our world that support and look out for others is as encouraging to you as it is to me. So I'm going to read from John 17, verses 20 and 23, 20 through 23, and part of 26. Verse 20, I, Yeshua, do not pray for these only, but also for those who believe in me through their word, and that's us. Verse 21, that they may all be one, even as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be in us, so that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. Verse 22, the glory which thou hast given me, I have given to them, that they may be one, even as we are one. Verse 23, I in them, and thou in me, that they may become perfectly one, so that the world may know that thou hast sent me, and hast loved them as thou hast loved me. In verse 26 in part, that the love with which thou hast loved me may be in them, and I in them. Yeshua experienced being in a human body to truly understand us and what our struggles are like. So tomorrow we will be celebrating Pentecost, as recounted in Acts chapter 2. Acts chapter 2. They were all gathered together, and the Holy Spirit fell on each of them in a powerful way. We also have been given a measure of God's Spirit, which connects us in a supernatural way. Our Father and Yeshua are connected closely to each one of us through the Spirit of God. We are included in the family of God. We are loved, looked after, and cared for. We belong in God's circle of safety. Any comments?
Wow, Shirley, that was very good. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
You opened up my eyes to a scripture I seen it in a different translation. The New Heart English Bible on my phone. It has that option. But the scripture that you brought up was in Romans 12:10, and mine says in the New King James, it says, "Be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love, and honor, giving preference to one another." But this New Heart English translation, I thought was more revealing, because it says it like this: "In love of the brothers, be tenderly affectionate one to another." And this is what I like. "Outdo one another in showing honor."
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was very informative. You know, that whenever we serve one another, wouldn't it be neat? The scripture I'm getting from here is that wouldn't it be neat that we would serve one another with a spirit of trying to even do better than what we think that we could do, even better than what's been done to us by our brothers. So that was good. So I appreciate, among several things you said, that you brought that scripture up, because I never looked at that scripture like that. So thank you.
Good. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, Reynolds?
So when I was in college, we had to do a lot of study about the hormones that you spoke about. And the interesting thing about hormones, for the very most part, hormones, first of all those hormones are in every one of us. They're in there. It's what makes them active. And for the most part, every hormone in our body is activated by a thought and how we perceive our surroundings. So even though we can be subject to physical things that can enhance those hormones, if we are thinking in a way to counteract that very hormone that is trying to be influenced, we can control those hormones with our thoughts to a degree.
Yeah.
Because it's very interesting, because we think we're in control, and for the most part, we can be in control of those hormones by what we think. But external forces can finally break the straw, so to speak, and cause that hormone to be released and bring out the monster in you, or bring out the very gentleness in you. But interestingly enough, the oxytocin, which is that love hormone, with a very fuzzy feeling, makes you feel great, is also responsible for making a woman have contractions. And without oxytocin, there's no way a woman can go through that excruciating pain that she is not really fuzzy-lovey about when she's in the middle of birthing a baby.
Right.
So it's very interesting when we had studied these in school that one hormone can primarily be for one particular thing, but that hormone almost always has an opposite side of doing absolutely 100% the other direction of what it's normally for. And once again, most of all that can be controlled by a perception or a thought.
Yeah, our thoughts are very powerful.
Right.
Very powerful.
So when in courtship, a young man and a young woman begin to be boyfriend girlfriends, if they're truly falling in love, their oxytocin is there and it's built up, and just the very touching of two pinkies. You're not holding hands, you're holding pinkies. Fire that oxytocin up like there is no tomorrow, which can be very dangerous if your mind is not focused on what you're supposed to be doing in the sight of an almighty God.
Right.
So I really love that part of my college when we studied those things about hormones. They're very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. Fascinating. This is just like just a little top level of.
Well, and the
that.
scripture comes out, so let this mind in me be also in you. If we have the mind of the Creator and the mind of Christ, we will keep those natural things in our body under subjection to our thoughts, because our thoughts are like His thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Diane.
I really liked when you said that leadership is a choice of sacrifice. It's
Mhm.
sacrifice. And then you followed that up with leaders want to feel safe too.
Mhm.
Because I've been on both sides, or I've been different part of the circle.
Mhm.
And I remember getting very frustrated in a leadership role a couple of times when I couldn't figure out what was wrong, and I felt like I was a part of, but distant
Mhm.
from the circle. And I found myself asking for or explaining to somebody why I was feeling so disconnected. And it really made a difference.
Mhm.
Their encouragement made me feel more a part of the circle instead of just that little bit of distance
Right.
too. So I'm glad that you brought that up because it's so important
It is.
to realize that
Yes.
everyone wants to be a part of this circle
Right.
of safety and security.
Yes. And I think we, like at the beginning, I said there's different circles. I mean, there's circles of different things we are connected with. This is, for me, is one of mine. But there are others. And that's just important. That makes us, kind of grounds us when we just get discouraged and just think, what's the use? Then, we have those people to, as you say, take them off the ledge. Yes, Keith?
We have Diane, she belongs to the St. Peter's Senior Center, and she's their treasurer. And we go there occasionally. I go there with her occasionally. We'll eat lunch, play bingo, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But what's interesting, what I've seen is that Diane has really sort of turned into a social butterfly, which really shocks me, to be quite honest with you. But the reason I brought this up was because if there's somebody sitting there by themselves, a senior sitting at a table by themselves, she almost can't stand it. She goes over, invites them to sit down with us. We were just there Thursday. And there was a lady sitting by herself, and before you knew it, they're sitting with us.
Uh-huh.
So she has this, I don't know if she's getting her serotonin there or what when she's inviting people, but it's interesting that some of the things you said that I've seen in my wife, involved my wife as a part of my life at the St. Peter's Senior Center. I just thought that was very interesting.
Anyone else?
And another thing to add about the hormones, cortisol, which is primarily the one hormone that causes most sicknesses and stress in people's lives, also is salvation to that same person if they need strength in a situation that they perceive as, okay, so if you perceive a lion is coming after you and is going to kill you, you instantly are flooded with cortisol. And without that cortisol, you wouldn't be able to run like a marathon.
Right.
Nor would you be able to fight. Nor would you be able to keep from bleeding out if you were bitten or clawed by that. Because when you get a flood of cortisol, it actually puts all of that blood deep into your muscles and into your bodily functions and keeps you from bleeding as much as you would bleed if you're injured during that fight or flight scenario.
Interesting.
It's very, it's just, I'm so amazed on how we are so fearfully and wonderfully made
Yes.
when it comes to these teeny tiny little chemicals that are in you all the time, and what makes them all of a sudden just flood your body.
Right.
And for some people, they would see that lion coming at them, and their perception would be like, oh, like Daniel, go ahead, don't need the lion's den. His cortisol levels were 0 when he was lowered down into that lion's den. His salvation was in the perception of knowing who he was in the sight of Almighty God.
Right.
Today, we are so bombarded by evil that our hormones are so much twisted and out of balance all the time because of the attacks on the enemy. And the only way that we can keep all that into check is to know our identity in our Creator.
Yeah, cortisol is very important, like you said, but for it to drip into our system continually is not good.
Very toxic.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Thank you.